Were you burning the poop too?
Yes, I did burn
Oh
food.
gosh.
I did, but luckily for us, so my the first part of my deployment, we actually convoyed from Kuwait to the Haditha Dam, and it took us about 3 days to do that.
Wow.
It was, and our convoy was huge. It was, it was tactical at all. I mean, if anything would have happened during the convoy, we had a lot of practice driving the convoy. That's all we did in Kuwait was practice how to ride in a convoy, but which was miserable. But once we got to Haditha, we were living inside this giant dam. There wasn't like functioning toilets or anything. They ended up getting some porta potties before we left there or whatever, and so that's what we had. But yeah, it was not. We didn't get a shower really at all. I think the first shower I remember taking in Iraq was once we finally we were called down to Fallujah in at the end of March of 2004, and so from basically the middle of February until that time, I didn't take a shower until I got to Camp Fallujah. That first night we were at Camp Fallujah, got to take a shower, even though we were getting mortared as well. So it's kind of interesting trying to take a shower with your flak and Kevlar right next to you. So in case you got to run to to a bunker or something. But that was kind of my experience there. And then things consistently got better over my deployments.
Yeah, and that's common of any war. I mean, you go to Germany in 1960, it was a very different experience than Germany in 1948, for instance. The militaries get a chance to catch up, and people are able to live a little bit more comfortably while they're there. But you went through pretty much the rough of it, and then you became, later on in your career, a drill instructor. Now, I've been through basic training twice. Once when I was 18 years old and once when I was close to 30. The drill sergeants were much more intimidating to my young psyche than they were the second time around to my older psyche. But they still give me like almost a version of post-traumatic stress disorder. It was like, in a way, they were wearing down my trigger responses, and they were trying to stress me out the best I knew how. I'm getting a chance to actually talk to a drill sergeant who knows these tactics of psychological manipulation that's part of the process that goes through this indoctrination. Do you want to share a little bit about the tricks of that trade?
I can open up a little bit of this. Okay. So, being a drill instructor, that was my third duty station. Prior to that, I was stationed in Washington, D.C., and I trained the Presidential Support Marines that go to Camp David, that go to the White House, and go to the White House Communications Agency. And then before that, I was with 3rd Battalion, 4th Marines, deploying to Iraq. So I'm on my third enlistment now, and I'm a drill instructor. And it was terrifying becoming a drill instructor, because you have to uphold everything that people believe about the Marine Corps. You have to look, you have to act, you have to believe that you are the Marine Corps. Almost, it's kind of intense to be a drill instructor.
You're a way of you're the picture of nationalism.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so trying to just maintain that identity the whole time was very stressful for me. However, I loved it. I loved training and making Marines. It was so gratifying by the end of my tour there. I got to train roughly 500 or so Marines over my 7 cycles as a drill instructor. And that, to me, is 500 roughly, men. I only trained male Marines, but 500 men I helped them achieve their goal of becoming a United States Marine. And it was, my first cycle was a lot different than my last cycle. And I'll explain how to, your first cycle, you're trying to figure out all the tricks of the trade. You want to be the most stressful and most intense drill instructor in your group, in your platoon. And the only way you do that is you don't stop screaming, and you don't stop running. You don't stop being intense. You can't eat in front of the recruits. You can't drink any water in front of the recruits. You can't sleep in front of the recruit. You don't sleep. Whenever you're on duty, you're always out. You're always walking around. You want them to think that you're like a robot, and you have to portray that. And it's not realistic, but you have to make it happen anyway. And so it's very stressful on your body. It's very stressful on your mental state. I've seen guys lose their cool and, put their hands on recruits and get relieved. I've seen guys who just said F it, and they didn't stop coming to work, and then they got relieved. It's a very difficult job to maintain that lifestyle the whole time that you're there. But I still talk to some of my recruits on Facebook and whatnot, and I check in to see, are they successful? Did I have any part in helping them become a successful human being in this world? And that means a lot to me whenever I see them and their success, and it hurts bad whenever I see them have failures. But I just try and be there for them anyway, and be a mentor to them. If they need anything, they know they can reach me on my Facebook Messenger or whatever the case is. And so sometimes they reach out for help. Maybe they want a letter of recommendation for something or whatever the case is, and I just do what I can for them, because they put their hand in the air to serve the country just like I did. So they got my respect on that note,
And that's really quite touching, because none of my drill sergeants do I even get close to keeping in contact with. I'm too terrified of them for the most part.
Me neither. I never contacted mine at all, and I just wanted to change that.
That's respectful. And that seems like you were taking your own approach to things.
Yeah, I did try. I saw a lot of what was happening there, and I didn't like it, so I didn't repeat it. You know what I'm saying? Like, if there was something going on that I didn't enjoy doing myself, whenever I moved up in the billets and I became a senior drill instructor, I didn't make my drill instructors do any of those things that I didn't want to do, and so I tried to help change the community and change the mindset, but still portraying the epitome of being a Marine, So how do you do that without making it as stressful on the drill instructors,
It sounds like you are still very much a shepherd to your flock.
I guess I was, I didn't look at it like that then, but definitely now, looking back, I was honing my shepherding skills.
Okay. Now, you talk about that intensity, right? And one of the things about me, and as well as Annie will attest to, is
hyper intense.
Yes, and that's not always so good for relationships.
Oh no!
And neither is being a drill sergeant. Drill sergeants in relationships don't go together. Now you're now hyper intense in a relationship.
Yep.
And, but you're also a drill sergeant and in the military. The odds are stacked against you. What was going on?
I'll tell you, man, my wife is amazing. I don't even know how she managed to do what she did. And we've been married, last year was 15 years.
Oh, congrats.
Wow.
So we got married in 2004. Thank you very much. I'm sorry. We got married in 2004, right after I got home from Fallujah. In Fallujah, I decided, because I had gotten engaged to her before before I deployed. I'd known her for many years, and I just knew she's the one I wanted to be with for the rest of my life. But we wanted to make it a long engagement. You know, we were young. We weren't trying to rush a wedding. But however, whenever I was seeing what happened, you know, what war was like, and what I was going to be going through, you know, over and over, and as far as I could see, you know, with my shortened vision there in combat, I called her whenever I finally got a chance one day, which was not very often. I didn't get a call home very much my first deployment at all. But I called her and I said, you need to plan a wedding for whenever I get home, because I've already got orders back to this country. And we already had orders to go back to Iraq, and we hadn't even made it home yet, you know? So it was, I just didn't want to miss out on an opportunity. So we got married in 2004. I became a drill instructor in 2011, and she did every single thing she could do to help our relationship stay a relationship during that time period. She would come visit me after the recruits went to sleep, which, you know, she would bring my kids and bring me dinner maybe. And so I would run out for just a quick second, and that's all they got to see me that day. Or she would come while the recruits were in a class. She would come bring me a drink during the middle of the day. Or if I needed something, some sort of, like I needed spray paint once, or I needed a lot of starch for the camis. And, you know, she went out and she bought that stuff while I'm working, and she did all that for me. And she was like my backup. Like, she had my back the whole time. And that's how we made it through that time as my time as a drill instructor, is because of her effort. You know, I had to go to work. I have no choice but to be at work. And whenever I wasn't at work, I was trying to recover from working, you know, and she put up with that for that 3-year period. She's a saint.
Well, I have a saint sitting next to me as well. My wife has had to deal with a great deal of my own things. So I will say, one, for the wounded warrior, there is nothing better than a patient and loving woman. Because it has a way of being able to hold things together when we can't.
Yeah, no, you're right. Whenever my life is a complete and utter mess, she can come and say what she has to say to make things better, you know, like, or just not even say anything, just touch my shoulder or hold my hand or whatever, and I just feel better, you know, because she's there and she's my partner, you know, like, it's pretty crazy. But going back to that intensity thing, I've had plenty of times where she's gotten, you know, I've gotten snippy or something, and she comes back at me like, I'm not one of your recruits. Quit talking to me like that.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, you were never a drill sergeant, but it's...
She's talking to me here.
Yeah.
No, like, I get it. You talk to your soldiers a certain way.
Yeah.
You talk to them in a way that's going to make things happen.
Right.
And so you get caught up in that, and then it turns into you start talking to your loved ones the same manner, because it's how you are accustomed to talking, and it doesn't work like that. You can't. I'm learning still. You know, I still get caught up in my intensity. You know, and she still has to switch me off sometimes. Like, hey, wake up! We're not in the military anymore. You don't talk to me like that. You know. But it's difficult.
Did it take a while to find that? I'm not that balance after the military.
I'm still finding that balance. So yeah, it's taking a while. It is taking a while. I sometimes I bump my head and I forget, and I switch back into Marine mode, and I start hashing out orders instead of having a conversation.
Right. Well, you go through a culturing, so I'm sure that's got to be really hard just to turn off in civilian life.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I know a lot of guys. I mean, even guys that only served their initial contract. It's really hard to transition from that culture, from that mindset.